Hi, I'm Taylor.
And I'm Allison.
And you're listening to
the Conscious Health Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Conscious Health Podcast. On this week's episode, we will be talking with Simone Weinstein. Simone works as a project manager at Provision Coalition, a sustainability not-for-profit helping the food and beverage manufacturing industry make food sustainably. With years of experience in nature-based learning and meditation practice, she has started guiding forest bathing walks in Guelph, where she lives with her partner Celeste. I'm just going to quote from your website. So, Simone has a fierce love for this planet and everyone and everything that calls it home. She believes that the global disasters we are experiencing are a result of disconnection to ourselves, to one another, and the natural world. That's where forest bathing comes in. This is a practice that rebuilds those connections and has the potential to change the world.
I'm sure most of our listeners are not familiar with forest bathing, as I had never heard about it before this, so I'm super excited to get into this podcast and hear a little bit more about the practice and Simone's experience with forest bathing. Just a little background on forest bathing for those of you who are new to this practice. Forest bathing originated in Japan in the 1980s and has now become a cornerstone of preventative healthcare and healing in Japanese medicine. The Japanese term Shinrin-yoku is a term that means taking in the forest atmosphere, or literally translated, it means forest bathing. And forest bathing is a form of meditation that takes place surrounded by nature and allows for restorative benefits to the mind, body, and soul.
Welcome, Simone.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
So great to be here.
All right, so what sparked your interest in forest bathing?
Well, I've always had a deep love and passion for the environment or nature, our planet, whatever you want to call it. Spending a lot of time in nature as a kid, in high school being, an enviro nerd, and going to school for environment and business. So clearly what I wanted to do was to share my love of the environment with others. I wasn't, though, sure quite how. It seemed like a weird purpose just to get people to fall in love with nature.
Yeah.
And for a lot of time, I wrestled with that. It didn't seem like enough. But eventually, I got to a place where I learned about forest bathing at Tofino Botanical Gardens, which is an amazing spot on Vancouver Island. And it seemed just by luck that the owner there was telling my mom and I about this book that he picked up. And I was actually not that interested in the conversation. It was my mom that remembered the name, and when we were back in Victoria, bought this book called, it was Forest Bathing by Ching Lee.
Okay.
And together, when we were on the island, we read a bit of the book and did some of the exercises, and it really connected with me. And I never had connected the dots before between a love of nature and meditation and spirituality, because that was the other side of something I was really passionate about and had been exploring for a long time was, how spirituality could help myself, whether it was recovering or it was after a loss in my life or a time when I was feeling, more alone, using some of these teachings and yoga and meditation to help me through, but it was never something I wanted to teach or get deeper into. But when I found forest bathing, which connected my two passions, it felt really right. It was this new spin on meditation that I had never experienced before. And then I found myself in Kitchener for forest bathing and meditation. And I almost didn't go. I put in my calendar, though, like a month before, mandatory, must go. So, and the day before, I was like, it's early, I don't want to go. It's far, I have to drive all that way. But I've read my calendar, I'm like, well, it's mandatory. So I have to go.
Thankfully, previous you was like, you're going to go to this.
Exactly. And I went, and during, it was like 30 minutes in, it just clicked for me. And the guide, Caitlin, she was so amazing. And it was just such a deep experience for me. And it was, I got so much out of it. And I was like, I really want to bring this to Guelph, do this, guide this, do this for others. And that's why I started. That's how I started.
And I'm so happy you started. I've experienced the your guided forest bathing already, and it really is an amazing practice. And I've seen it impact my life. I see things with more vibrancy, and I see things more simply even when I'm going for a walk to school.
That's so awesome to hear.
Yeah, it's really made a huge impact. So how long have you been doing this practice?
Not long, a few months,
Okay.
really. Yep. Just a few months. I'm hoping to, I've been offering guided walks once a month right now, and I would love to make that more frequent, even every week.
Yeah.
Partnering with other people in Guelph.
Okay.
And just drawing on lots of different practices. Maybe it's sound healing. Maybe it's more like of a group facilitated walk where you're connecting with others. Maybe it's connecting more with like trees and tree identification. So bringing in lots of different things to the practice.
Yeah. I mean, possibilities are endless. Even I'm thinking like foraging and those kind of events.
Exactly.
Very nice. Yeah, so I recently attended your forest bathing session, and it was very different from what I expected because of the location. And I know that was not your intention initially, right?
Yeah, I was going to do it a bit outside of the core of Guelph at the Ignatius Old Growth Forest. The mosquitoes were so bad, though.
Yes.
5 seconds in there, and I had like 20 mosquito bites.
Oh, wow,
and
yeah.
so I didn't think it would be a very good setting for us to
sure.
just literally be sitting in or walking slowly in. So yeah, I moved it to Speed River and around Arthur Street, which was really accessible. So pretty much anyone could take the bus there or walk there or bike there, which was a great added benefit.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's a space that we walk through every day.
Exactly.
Right? That's something, forest bathing, it might sound like you have to go to this old 100,000-year-old forest in order to get something out of it, but you actually can do it like in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so you'll probably go into more detail on
that's what I loved about it, was that it opened my eyes to forest bathing is not you have to drive a half an hour to get to this beautiful, pristine nature reserve. It's right here in your backyard every day. And like I said, that's helped me to have that experience in nature on my street. Like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. So I guess the whole experience, I'll just go through what we did and kind of the whole guided experience. You open with some background, just to give everyone background on forest bathing and the practice, and a little bit of the history, an explanation of kind of what we were going to do, and then a welcome and an intro. It was a very purposeful intro as well. It was very much recognizing we're here together. That's what it felt like, which was really refreshing.
Yeah, and I like to start with the intention as well. I find the more we go into every situation with an intention, so this is something that doesn't only have to apply to forest bathing, but going into everything with an intention. Like, what do I want to accomplish out of this day?
Exactly.
Or what do I want to accomplish out of this hour and a half? Starting to think about that, there's a greater likelihood that you will actually achieve that intention.
Yes.
If you go in just being like, I'm here to, I don't know, we'll go on a walk, I guess, you're not going to get what it is you actually want to
Exactly. Yeah, so then I think we started a guided sensory or meditative session of listening to the different sounds, feeling the wind on your skin, smelling, the flowers and the grass, and even tasting the air, or if you felt like it, tasting the grass, which was very nice because I think most of us have probably tried meditation. And for me, when I'm in a house that's confined, it's not as meditative as just being outside. So I did really enjoy that.
And how I like to see it, how many people see it, is that, nature is the healer.
Yes.
Right? Nature is doing all the work. It's it's the guide that's just opening the door, or it's one another that are opening the doors, but it is nature itself that is doing the healing, and it's just about tuning into that and tuning into how much like we're given every day just by the sunlight, just by you know, like the sounds of the birds. There's so many gifts around us, and I think that's part of what kind of clicks with people, or what people really connect to. It's like, my God, it's so beautiful. There's so much around me, and we don't really take the time to notice that.
Yeah. Yeah, and even later we did a group walk, because maybe I should say that this was all a group-based activity, which was very nice because it gave me so much more perspective on how others were seeing it, and maybe giving me ideas for how I could view things a bit differently. It really opened those doors. But our walk through the neighborhood was really nice. Seeing that connection between the human created world that we live in, but also seeing nature in that, and seeing them come together as one, and not always being so separated. That was really big for me as we walked through the neighborhood. And then another practice that was really great was picturing ourselves as an animal, and then going through the whole life cycle. And I had picked a mosquito because you had mentioned maybe picking one that was a little bit more difficult, and realizing how little I knew about those mosquitoes.
Yeah, and you know, my favorite part of forest bathing, it was both when I was a participant, I would say, and especially as a guide, is the part where everyone gets to share.
Yes.
So after most exercises, guided exercises, there's an opportunity for everyone to share if they would like to. So and hearing what other people are getting, like you mentioned, right, gets you to see things from different people's perspective. And I would say, you know, today especially, it's so important to not only share how you're doing with one another. Like, it's so important to tell others, you know, about how you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're experiencing.
Exactly.
And not, you know, living that isolation. But it's also so important to like truly listen to other people without judgment, without needing to interject, just to listen. Right. So that part of the walk is really uplifting, grounding.
It is.
I don't know.
Yeah, it really is. I really enjoyed how it was a group setting, but then there were moments where you had your own time. So when we got back, there was about a 10-minute independent meditation. And that was where I found the most gratitude, and I just had the most lovely experience, as I shared with you. So I've meditated before, and it's always these mantras, right, that are very, I'm going to say they're self-centered. They tend to be, I am this, or I want that. But in that moment, all I could think of was embody the energy of a rock. Be solid in who you are, and be stable, but allow earth and wind and all the elements to shape you and move you and kind of guide you through life. And it's just like, it's been my mantra ever since.
So you connected, like you have this now intimacy with the rock, it seems.
Yeah.
And with rocks.
Exactly.
Like this love of rocks.
Yeah. And it's really
amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah. And then after that, we came together and had tea, which was really nice, again, to kind of wrap things up. And we gave gratitude and thanks to nature, which was healing, but also kind of challenging for me, too, because of everything that we've done to nature. It is a hard spot for me to sit there and be with that, and feel like I'm not giving back enough to nature for how much we take.
Yeah, giving gratitude to nature and the environment kind of forces us to go slower and appreciate it. So it's an exercise in, you know, being appreciative for what we have and not needing to take more or ask for more. But I agree with, or I feel the way that you felt, where it feels challenging to like either thank nature or to even imagine how we could give anything to nature. I think that's the biggest challenge.
I think, you're right.
How could we actually give anything to nature? It seems like we're the one just taking and taking and taking. So the exercise of giving gratitude, it reminds us that it is reciprocal. And I've been reading lots of different books and things about nature connection, and there's this really interesting perspective. If you put yourself in the mind of like a tree or a river or just like nature herself, and you think about how she might want us to act.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? It's like, how would a tree want me to act? Like, if I am walking through a forest, what would this tree want? And in a sense, all it wants is to be noticed and appreciated and loved. So it's like by giving, and just like all of us, right? Like, we just want to be noticed, appreciated, loved. Every inanimate or animate object, we can imagine, maybe, it would be the same for them.
Yeah, for
as
sure.
weird as that sounds, like even for a rock, maybe that rock just wants to be noticed and appreciated.
Yeah.
Right.
So by doing that, it's almost like it is enough, or at least it's something. It is something to like notice that tree and be like, thank you.
Yes.
Just so thanking nature is actually a really powerful thing that you can do, and it can be healing both for you and for our planet.
It is
right?
healing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you talked a bit about your first experience with the practice. Would it have been similar to what I had experienced? Not your experience, but just maybe the structure of it.
The structure was similar. I took a lot of inspiration from Caitlin's walk. Every walk that I do, I like to go to the place beforehand, do an initial walk to get a feel for it.
Okay.
And start to draw inspiration from like how I'm feeling there and so most of it is, I would say, quite similar, but then different exercises. Right now it's been like whatever, it's just like come to me and
so quite intuitive.
So that one is different. And so Caitlin's in hers, there was actually a really powerful exercise she did with a rock.
Oh yeah.
You would have loved it. Yeah. So it was a practice with connecting with the rock and thinking about the life of this rock and where it had come from. Like it was a mountain at one point,
right?
And what forces brought it to where it was today in your hand. So thinking about that. So I would say, in every walk I try to, and it seems like lots of other guides try to do an exercise where you're getting kind of outside of yourself, or it's about changing up our perspective. I think that's something that, if you change your perspective, like if you see something from someone else's point of view through sharing, or from a tree's point of view or a river's point of view, like it really does change how you see things. Like that's why we love movies, because we can see life from someone else's point of view.
Exactly.
You know, why we love books. We are this person for, however long we're reading it. So that's really what it is about. It's about seeing things from a different point of view, going easy on yourself, like giving yourself gratitude, giving things gratitude. Just trying to be okay with things and to, right, like be soft and gentle and loving.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the purpose of forest bathing, is that, like you said, that healing nature. So what made you decide to share this passion with others?
Yeah, I think it's important, and it was important for me to find something that truly spoke to me, that I could call my, quote unquote purpose, or something that really does inspire me. So I believe this is part of that. It's a part of, like I said before, getting people, or simply sharing my love of nature with others. Like I kind of think that's what it is. It's like I have all this love for nature, for just the world, for human connection, for nature connection. So
Yeah.
just sharing that and having that impact people. That's what it is about. So that's what compelled me to lead.
Okay.
I've led other things, like in a professional setting or
Okay,
in
yeah.
in volunteering settings. Like I do like to assume that role.
Okay. So it wasn't completely out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have done group leading, but not so
Okay.
much group facilitation. So facilitation is something new that I'm now getting more and more into.
Okay.
Facilitation. It's a technique and it's a skill that
Yeah.
this is helping me build, and I'm going to be drawing on lots of other kind of facilitation exercise or practices.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So what impact have you seen in your own life from forest bathing?
I would say I am more energetic and passionate and alive.
Yeah.
When we're doing things we love, it tends to, excite us and
Right.
enliven us. So the fact that I am able to offer this to others is enlivening. But I too have, I am also a participant in this. So
Yes.
just by slowing down, noticing things, giving gratitude, it is helping me to be more joyous, be more at peace, more centered, and come to peace with my role in this environmental movement, I would say. From feeling like I can't do it, like there's nothing I can do to help, right?
Yeah.
This feeling of like I can't do anything, I don't matter, I don't have an impact, I don't make a difference, to even this tiny little thing that I can do that I believe it is making some impact. That is also very rewarding.
So how often do you practice, and like where, and what does that really look like for you?
Yeah, I try to do it every day, but not in a formal manner.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I'm walking my dogs, I'm going slow. When they're sniffing a bush, I'm like,
Yeah.
what smells are in the air? Haven't got down on my hands and knees yet, but it might happen.
Maybe one day.
If you were to follow me, probably you would, or ask my partner, you would know that I am actually a very fast working person.
Okay.
Like she even commented yesterday, she's like, why are you running in the house? So I do work really fast, perhaps too fast, perhaps at a speed that isn't healthy. If I'm at work, I'm like doing a million things on lots of different browsers, and I tend to run around the house, so I need to work on slowing down.
Yeah.
And so this helps me slow down and go slow. And then in a formal way, I would say right now I am doing it maybe once every 2 weeks. So it's actually not that often. It's when I'm prepping for a session or if I'm leading it.
Okay.
So the more I can facilitate and lead, the more I can do it, which would be great.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would love to be a participant in more, like if there were others in Guelph, because right now, as far as I know, there aren't any others in Guelph.
Okay.
But if there were others in Guelph, then I would go to more, because I really do love it in the group setting.
Yeah,
right?
it is very
Informally,
nice.
I can do it on my own and kind of, but in a group, formally, I would love to do it in a group setting. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of impact do you see on the community, or when you are in a group setting? Just the difference there. Where do you see this going in the community?
Yeah, well, I've gotten some feedback from people, and right now where I see the impact is on the individual level. So people saying afterwards, like, I have experienced trauma and this was very healing, or feedback like, now this has inspired me to focus on like my passions. Like I haven't been working on my stuff for like 5 years. Now I want to work on my own stuff. Or if it's, I've now come to just slow down in nature, appreciate it more.
Right.
I think, so these are all individual benefits.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would, though, love to see it be used as a way to bring the community together.
Yeah.
Even like solve problems. So it could do this in a way, maybe if there's like a development project or a development that people are upset about, like how can we bring people together and walk around the space in in an intentional way? What can we learn from nature? How could this shape our development? And bringing school groups together, bring it to youth and show them how they can do this practice to connect with themselves, one another.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And even as you're saying, these are more individual impacts, but you can see how it would easily cascade into the community if someone starts following their passion. When someone is healed, like that quickly has a domino effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything starts with ourselves. Like it's hard to heal, quote unquote, heal the planet if we ourselves like are hurting or not healed. It's like we have to start. I mean, we can do one before the other. It might not be as effective. That's my opinion on it. Like if we really are like at peace with ourselves, and if we're then we have more of an impact out in the world. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I would agree on that.
All right, so if one of our listeners wanted to implement forest bathing into their daily wellness practice, what would be kind of the first steps that they should take?
I would say start with sitting outside. And I've heard this term coined in another book I'm reading. Find a sit spot. So it's kind of this spot that you can sit and you can notice what's happening around you. And you can even, by returning to that same spot, you notice the changes. So sit there. What do you hear? Hear the birds chirping? Is it quiet? What's far away? What's close by?
Yeah.
Then smell the air, right? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel around you? So start with the sensory. Definitely the sensory exercise is what forest bathing very simply is. It's actually just your sensory experience in nature. All the other things like changing your perspective and seeing things from an animal or seeing things from one another, that's actually kind of additional to forest bathing. That's where we're taking more of a spiritual angle and applying it in the walk. But forest bathing simply is just notice what's around you. So if you can, if you're sitting outside having breakfast in the morning, you can do that. If you're waiting for the bus stop, you can do that. Just start. And sound is a really good one to start with, because there's so much happening around us that we can hear.
And a lot of times we tune that out.
We tune it out. So so you can start with the sound. And another thing that again, this is not unique to forest bathing in any way, but giving gratitude is something that is important in forest bathing. It's it's been brought up by so many other people. So I in the morning I've started journaling every morning, and there's a few things that I make sure to journal about, but one of them is gratitude. So it's good to do that all throughout the day as well. And then intention setting. So again, at the beginning of the day, what do you want to get out of the day? Or what I've started doing is framing it in a question. Like, what is a question that you can ask yourself and find the answer to throughout the day? So you don't even have to know. So today, because I just adopted a new dog, it was it was very exciting. It was, how can I make a good home for our new dog? And then that's kind of my intention for the day. Like, this is what I want to create today. And then the world just kind of answers, right? And so once you're open to having the world answer your question, then
I like that. I feel like that would also give people like purpose throughout their day as well. Sure. As opposed to just going through the motions. And
totally. Or like, I've asked myself questions like, how can I be productive at work? It was a Monday morning, and I was like, I know I'm not going to be productive if I just walk in the door. So I asked myself, how can I be productive?
Right.
And I don't even, it's not telling myself exactly what to do. It's just like, it's letting the answer come. So
I like that.
Me too. I'm going to start doing that. All right. So I know like at the beginning I briefly explained what forest bathing was, but how has forest bathing in your experience been different from other forms of meditation that you may have practiced?
Yeah. For me, going outward was the biggest difference. So when I've been meditating on my own before or with some other guided meditations that I've experienced, it has been, closing your eyes and looking internally without using what's around us as a tool.
Right.
But when you can open up to everything around you and use it as a tool, it becomes more accessible, because then rather than closing your eyes and thinking about something, and I'm more of a visual person, maybe that's why, but I can just fixate on like a tree. Like that's very accessible to me. I can just look at that tree and stare at that tree and touch the tree, and focusing on that is much more accessible to me. And through doing that, you actually get I can get into a more of a meditative and a peaceful state. And because of my love of nature, that allows me to enter into meditation much easier. People talk about like flow states, right? The state that when we absolutely love something, we're so enthralled in it, everything kind of slips away and we're in this meditative state. So perhaps that's what it is like for me, because I love nature so much, and that it's much easier for me to enter it. Whereas someone that has a love of music, maybe sound meditation or sound healing might be a much easier entry for them. Or there's even ways that you can, meditate while cooking. Like I just got a book out of the library. It's like how cooking can be a spiritual practice. Right? So by, if you are cutting the onions, or if you're like sauteing the onions, you're, focus on the smell, focus on how it sounds when it sizzles, focus on how, right? So you can use anything as, I would say, like a gateway into, I guess, your deeper conscious, right? For me, nature is that gateway.
I had a similar experience, like I was saying, at your forest bathing. Compared to other forms of meditation, it is very accessible because, like you, nature is just where I feel at peace. And just like that mantra, it just comes to you.
Yeah, it's easy. It makes sense.
If it's okay with you, one
more
last
question.
Question. We'll do like our grand finale question. So, if you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
I would say notice what is right in front of you. And actually, I think this was advice that I heard my mom say too, but it connects to forest bathing too, but it's like notice if you're in a relationship, like actually notice the person that you're with. Like notice them. What are they doing? How are they feeling? If you're outside in the world, like notice what's around you. Like, oh, there's birds chirping. What are they doing? Oh, there's this person walking by on the side of the street. Like notice them. That's it.
Yeah.
that will snowball, obviously.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel like that's like a really good piece of advice, because you can basically apply that to everything in your life. So
Yeah, I love that, especially about people you're with, because a lot of times you're just together.
Yes.
But actually noticing them and going deeper, and that would be a great practice.
We all want to be noticed.
We all do.
That's kind of it, right? We want to be noticed,
loved, understood, loved.
That's it. Heard. Yeah.
This was amazing.
Yes,
I'm so thankful you joined us today.
This was
so
really,
much.
really great.
Thank you so much
I've
for having me.
Personally never participated in forest bathing, but I think I'm going to. Like, it seems like there's a lot of good benefits, and even just things that you can pull and practice like on a daily basis, small things like the gratitude, just taking the time to slow down. So yeah,
and it's worth a try. And if it's not for you, it's definitely not for everyone. I would say, I mean, being more conscious in your daily life, there's so many different ways to do it.
Right.
So if it's not forest bathing, perhaps it's something else, and that is totally okay.
And that's what we're all about here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, this was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
So if you want to connect with Simone, you can go to...
Yeah, go to my Facebook page, Silent Spring Forest Bathing. That's the best way. You can see the events that are happening. I also have a website just to read a little bit more, check it out, silentspringforestbathing.com. And feel free to reach out and connect with me personally, like messaging me through forest bathing or anything like that. I am always open to connecting and collaborating.
And we'll make sure to link this all in the description so you can all access it.
Thank you again, Simone.
Thank you so much.
I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, make sure to follow us on all of our social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with the Conscious Health Podcast. Thanks again for listening. Bye!